Well, today is Monday, September 24th, 2012, and we are interviewing Cheryl Weglewski
Mhm.
at the Illinois State Library. So, may I call you Cheryl?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Um, Cheryl is um,
She's 56 years old.
56 years old, having been born on October 2nd of 1955. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And my name is Sue Burkholder, and I will be the interviewer. So for the recording, Cheryl, will you please state what war and branch of service you served?
I was in the United States Army, I was in the reserves, and I was in during Desert Storm.
Okay, thank you. All right, could you, just to start off, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself and um, what led you to sign up for the reserves?
Well, I'm a college graduate. I'm a teacher of special education. And back in 1987, I was trying to make some major decisions in my life, whether I wanted to continue teaching or do something else. And so, since I had always wanted to be in the military when I was younger, I decided, let's try the reserves. And if I liked it, then maybe I would go active. So in 1987, in March, I signed my contract. And that June, I left and went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training. I was 31 years of age, which was old by military standards.
Yeah. And how was the training? How did you make it through? And what are your things that you think of when you think of the training?
It was hard. I'm not a runner, and since we had to do a lot of running, it was extremely difficult. What I remember the most about basic training were women had to do the exact same things as the men, which I think we already knew that, but it was still, oh, I can't believe we have to do those kinds of things. We had to rappel down a wall, and we had to throw grenades, and we had to qualify on our weapons, and that was kind of scary, but we did it. I did it, and I achieved, and I accomplished more than I thought I ever could have.
Very good. How did your family and friends feel about you signing up?
Well, I have to be serious. My mom and dad at that time in my life were just as confused as I was about where I was going, and when I came home and told them that I had signed the paperwork, they weren't really happy with me. My mom was like, well, I couldn't have been the Navy. And my dad was just, I cannot believe you signed up for the Army, and kind of walked away. Other than that, I mean, everybody else was just fine with it. But, you want that pat on the back from mom and dad, and I didn't get it right away.
Yeah. Were there other family members that had been in the military to kind of make you interested, or was this just something on your own?
My dad is a Korean War vet. My mom was in the Naval Reserves before Korea. And my grandfather was a World War I vet. So the Weglewski family is got quite a military career behind it.
Cool. Very good. Okay. All right. Once you were through training and then into the early days of serving in the reserves, what was that like? How did you adapt to military life?
Well, actually, in the beginning, it was kind of easy. I went back to teaching, and my reserve duties were basically 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. My first duty station was with a military school division, which was, I guess, kind of appropriate. But I didn't want to do any of the teaching, so I became a secretary to the sergeant major. And I made sure that all of his paperwork was done, and I made sure that the NCOERs, which were the evaluation reports for all the non-commissioned officers, were completed and turned in time. From there, I moved on to the 86th Army Reserve Command in Forest Park, and that was, I don't know, that was my favorite placement. I really enjoyed working there. I worked with full bird colonels and lieutenant colonels and majors and captains, and I had a 1-star and a 2-star general that I worked with, and it was interesting. I was constantly learning something new and different, which was one of the things I really wanted to do when I was in the service. First of all, I really did want to serve my country. It would have been a strange reason not to join if I didn't. And so when I got to the ARCOM, I really felt like I was doing what I went to the service to do. My job was to work in the mobilization department, and it was for me to go out with my other officers, or the other officers, and make sure that all of the reserve units were prepared for in case of call-up. You know, they had all of their paperwork. It's amazing the amount of paperwork that you have to have, and probably the biggest piece of paperwork is the almighty alert roster. Most people in civilian life would call it the phone tree.
Okay.
But in the military, it's called an alert roster. And it is amazing how quickly something like that can just fall apart. On page 2, a lot of times it falls apart. So it was my job to go through the alert rosters and make sure that they worked from start to finish. And if they weren't working, I had to explain how to fix it or how they could fix it and try to convince them that it was a good idea to fix them. As time went on and we got closer and closer to Desert Storm, that job became more and more important. As soon as Saddam invaded Kuwait, our job became 3 times as important because our units were being called up right and left. And that's when I began working every weekend of the month. And I seemed to work most summers, trying to get everything caught up. During Desert Storm, we would get a call during the week, and we were told, you know, we need you to come in this weekend to go to a unit that's going to get called up. But you can't tell them they're getting called up. You know, so there we were on a Saturday or a Sunday, getting them through and making sure that all their paperwork is correct, and having to hear, oh, we're never going to get called up. I don't see why you're here again. And you're like, well, you know, it's really important that this works. You know, you want to make sure that you can contact all of your personnel. Oh, it doesn't really matter. You know, and you had to find a way to get them to understand the importance without telling them they were getting called up on Tuesday or Wednesday. And it was probably the most difficult thing I ever had to do, because I knew more information than I wanted. And then during that time span, I went and worked on getting my top secret security clearance, and that became even more difficult because then you were learning more things, and I would despise having to learn it all because you'd have to go to work the next day. I would sit through meetings, especially during Desert Storm, and they would tell us this unit's headed here and this unit's headed there, and then I would go to work on Monday mornings, and all of my friends that had children in the service would go, well, did you hear anything about my kids this weekend? And I would like, nope, didn't hear a thing. And I would walk out of the room and have to walk back down to my classroom and lock myself in because I didn't want to talk to them. Because whether I did hear or not, I never could say a word. It was just part of the job.
Right.
And it was a very difficult time period.
Yeah.
So, and as time went on, I left the service in '95. I didn't leave the military because I wanted to. I left the military because my knees said, you can't run anymore. I had had 2 operations, and the doctor said no more running. And so I said, okay. And then when my time in service was up, I signed all the paperwork and out I went. But I do miss it even to this day. It's amazing how much. Still stay in contact with a lot of people.
Yeah. And when you left, how did it feel? Was it, well, obviously you didn't really want to, but
No.
was it?
It was like, it was losing a best friend. You know, because I was there so much. It's like I had 2 full-time positions. I was working 2 jobs. I was working the Army, and then I was also teaching, and the Army became 100 times more important than the teaching. I don't know if that's understandable, but I wanted to be there for my friends. I mean, during Desert Storm, quite a few people from my unit were deployed. I could not be deployed due to medical reasons. And waiting for them to send us a letter or waiting for them to come home was very, very stressful. I can only imagine what it must have been like for parents and loved ones, even to this day. Because it was horrible. And it was a short war, but it was awful.
Yeah. Did your unit lose any of the members during Desert Storm?
We were very lucky. We did not lose anyone. Actually, during Desert Storm, we didn't lose. It's not that we didn't lose many, but a couple, maybe 200 of our soldiers died during Desert Storm. It was Pennsylvania that got hurt the most when that National Guard unit got hit by the Scud missile.
Okay. Well, just turn a corner here.
Okay.
Do you recall during your time of service, what were some of the just the fun things that happened, like humorous, jokesters, those type of things? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Oh, we were always pulling jokes on each other. Holiday seasons were always fun. Somebody always got dressed up as Santa Claus, and and the adults would sit on the lap and take pictures with them. So it was kind of silly. Every year we would have a unit party. Sometimes in the summer, and we'd all get dressed up, and that was always really a lot of fun. We had our military ball, and we went up to I think the Sheridan up by O'Hare, and we were all dressed to the nines. And I would walk up to people and say hi, and they're like, I can't believe that's you, because they're so used to seeing you in those wonderful BDUs, and so it was a new and exciting position to be in. I would say the most fun we had was when we would go out. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we would go out for lunch all the time. I would go out with the officers, and we would go out, and we would go to all these restaurants that they wanted to go to, and I would go, I cannot go to these anymore. I want to go to where I want to go to. And they were like, not gonna happen. So that was always fun. And always walking back, the officers are always supposed to be on the inside. Well, then the women are supposed to be on the inside. So the officers and I would argue who was going to walk on what side of the sidewalk, And I got along with the officers really well. I was able to become an officer if I wanted to, chose not to. I was in charge all the time at school, didn't want to be in charge while I was in the service. But fun time. Oh, yeah. We would have parties. I just can't say, we would just little things here and there, parties and dinners and lunches and stuff like that. But when we worked, we worked.
And what rank did you achieve?
I achieved E6, which was a staff sergeant.
All right. Let's see. And what have you been doing then since you left the military?
Well, I'm still teaching.
Okay.
Will be completing my 34th year as a teacher, and will be retiring this year. Not that I'm excited or anything, but so yeah. And I began to travel. I'm now beginning to go to all those places to study more American history. So that's
cool. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay. How did your military experience influence your thinking about war and the military in general?
Oh, big time. I am 100% behind the military. And it's very hard sometimes when you're sitting around people who are against the military and against the government, and it's just like, you don't understand. When we join the military today, we don't join because we have to. We join because we want to. And that's a choice that we make, and we have to stand behind our kids that choose to do that. And we need to be there for them when they come home. And our government has to make a big decision each time they decide. And I think that whether you agree with it or not, you have to stand behind them.
Right. I agree. All right, since you left the military, have you joined any veterans organizations?
Yes.
Participated in?
Yes, I am the state commander for the Illinois Department of AMVETS. I've been involved with AMVET since 1995 on all levels. This year is probably my biggest year because being commander means that I go to many, many different events. I'm always constantly looking for ways to help out our veterans. I go to the Mantino Veterans Home, which is pretty much in my backyard, and I spend as many hours as I can with them. I've been introduced to many other things that are going on in the state. Fisher House, which is a home for veterans, for hospitalized veterans' families. And what a cool thing. If anybody ever gets an opportunity to go there, I really think you should.
Yeah.
It's like a Ronald McDonald House, very similar to that. With AMVETS, we've done so much. I'm so proud of our organization. We have built a reactivation center at Hines, and we're in the process of building one down at Marion, which should be opening up within the next couple of months. So AMVETS is a biggie in my life.
Good. Sorry.
That's okay.
Got the sinus thing going here. Have you had the, I know it's a little, well, you had served with people. Have you had reunions or things like where you got back together with your people you served with while you were?
Yeah, we did back, I can't even remember what year it was. So, but the 86 ARCOM, what they did was, it's called folding the flag. And what that means is they closed it. And what they did was they take the flag and it's very ceremoniously folded and put away, meaning that that unit is, like I said, closed. And it was a huge formal dinner also, and many of us got together and we all had a great time together. Now that was fun because we took crazy pictures and stuff like that.
Okay, I noticed that you have some photos there,
Yes, I do.
and if you want to show the photos and share the stories behind them.
Well, we'll start out with this one. This one here was the photo that was taken of my basic training unit back in 1987 at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And let me see if I can remember who I am. Here I am, way over here. Okay, this is 1 year later at Fort Jackson. This is my photo for graduation from AIT school, which is Advanced Individualized Training, and I became a secretary at 71 Lima, and I am in the front row right here. Okay, you can see how young I was then. Okay, this here, I just have a couple. This here was a picture of a, this was in 1990. So this was getting my E5, which was going from E4 to E5. And as you can see, you can't see, but that's when we were in our dress uniforms. And then here, this one was when I received one of my Army commendation medals. And you can just see it barely on my uniform. And that's the general.
And what medals did you receive?
I received 2 Army Commendation Medals, both of them for serving above and beyond while my time in office. And I brought those also. I didn't know if you wanted to see those.
Sure.
Army Achievement Medals, excuse me. This one was during Desert Storm. Army Achievement. Sorry, wrong terminology there. And this one is a copy. For some reason, the original is misplaced. And this was the achievement medal I received for when I left from the 34th education school to go to the ARCOM, and they gave me this for all of the hard work and everything that I had done for them. So it was really kind of nice. So this is from there, and this was during Desert Storm. Well, all people during Desert Storm also received a new ribbon, and it was the National Defense Ribbon. We got it all for serving during time of war, just like all of the servicemen have received it for years before my dad and I shared that one.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's nice.
So that's my military career.
Yeah. Well, do you have can you think of any other comments or something that you would like to tell us about the time you served or, uh,
Serving in the military isn't hard. It's time consuming, but when your day is done, you know you've done well. And I can't imagine anybody not saying that. You've achieved something tremendous each and every day. And when you do leave the service, you know that you've done good and you want to continue doing good.
yeah, that's a great feeling.
Mhm.
Great feeling.
It's probably the best feeling ever. I think I felt that every time. Every weekend I'd come home
Mhm.
knowing that I had to start school on Monday morning. I always felt good that Monday morning that I did something good that night before.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for your time
Mm-hmm.
and thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
I know that, like you said, not everybody agrees that whether you do agree or not, and I have a family history. My husband is ex-military, and I'll work on him.
You do that.
And anyway, though, we do appreciate it, and I want to thank you very much for your service to our country.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.